Hey, Crime Salad listeners. Welcome back to another episode of Crime Salad, where we talk true crime. My name is Ashley.
And I'm Ricky.
And for this week's case, we are going to discuss one that is pretty graphic, it's disturbing, and it's outside of the norm for what we usually cover. Consider this a warning. The details are most definitely difficult to hear, and the content is not suitable for children. We share this story carefully with the intent of raising awareness about the dangers that exist in our communities. Please be aware that this episode contains explicit details of rape, crimes against children, and death by strangulation, as discussed in court. Your mental health is important. Maybe listen to or watch something happy after this. I know I had to watch SpongeBob a few times just to reset my brain. Okay, Ricky, are you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
So this story takes place in Oakridge, Tennessee, where Jennifer Paxton was invited over to this guy's house, essentially offering her a place to stay. For Jennifer, times were tough. From what her family described, she was living in local shelters, and from what they believe, she was in a rehabilitation program due to her drug problem. It was mentioned in court that, for the most part, the family wasn't aware that she was, quote, selling herself to fund her drug habit. It was believed that her mom had offered her to stay at her house, but she decided not to. However, this guy that invited her over to his house most likely saw these things knowing that she was desperate for money, desperate for a place to stay, and used them to his advantage. She was lured into a living nightmare at Sean Finnegan's apartment on East Fairview Road in Oakridge, Tennessee. Jennifer Paxton was left chained to the side of a bed in a 2-bedroom apartment, believed to be starved, beaten, raped, and sexually assaulted, tortured by the hands of Sean Finnegan and his loyal girlfriend, Rebecca Dishman, who slept peacefully in their bed while Jennifer suffered next to them on the floor. She was told she wasn't leaving the house and she would eventually die at the hands of Sean and his girlfriend. She ultimately suffered through multiple cuts, humiliation, and she suffered a horrible death. And the very one who eventually spoke up about these horrible things was the girlfriend, Rebecca Dishman, revealing that Jennifer was strangled over and over again for hours until she took her last breath. And things didn't end there. Her bones were broken, and she was mutilated and stuffed into a standing freezer to be kept for Finnegan's sadistic pleasure. The details of this case are nauseating, making it hard to even believe that someone would carry out such horrible acts towards someone.
Blown away, honestly.
The sadistic monster behind the brutal murder of Jennifer Paxton is Sean Finnegan, and eventually he was put to a stop. At the age of 56, Finnegan was arrested on August 6th of 2020 and was held on a $1 million bond, and the same went for Rebecca Dishman, even though she was the one to come forward to the police. She pleaded guilty and got a plea deal to take the death penalty off the table if she testified against Sean in court. However, Sean denied killing Jennifer, basically blaming it all on Rebecca. And he told the investigator that he just didn't know what to do with the body, and so he panicked.
Oh, so like a cover-up or something.
Yeah. Now, sadly, we don't have much personal information on the victim, Jennifer Gail Paxton. But from what I could find, according to her obituary, she was born on May 7th, 1984, and she was from Knoxville, Tennessee. From what it seems like, she had 7 children, but they were under someone else's care at the time. And she had loving friends and a family who were so heartbroken over this tragedy. Investigators believe that she passed away in December of 2019, although her body was eventually found on August 6th of 2020. and it was determined that she was about 35 years old at the time of her death. Now, there's 3 people of Jennifer's family, her cousin, her grandmother, and her aunt, who are big supporters of Jennifer, and they are making sure that she gets justice. They never want her to be forgotten. Jennifer Paxton's family shared a few messages that will show the amount of grief and shock that this evil caused. Jennifer's cousin, Beverly Jeffers, stated, quote, "We didn't just lose Jennifer. She was taken from us." She described the fear the family felt when Jennifer went missing, knowing she would never go days without contacting them. And then on August 6th, 2020, Jennifer's mother, Patty, received a devastating call that no mother should ever have to receive. Patty had reported her missing, hoping she would be found. And well, she was found, but she was tragically and brutally murdered. Patty passed away while grieving her daughter's loss, often questioning if she could have done something more to prevent it, putting all of the blame on herself, which is absolutely heartbreaking. And this has got to be the most heartbreaking part of this story. Another cousin of Jennifer's, Brittany Payne, shared how Jennifer was like a sister to her. She stated, "I have nightmares. I can't sleep or eat right. My whole world has changed, turned upside down. I'll never look at this world the same again."
It makes you wonder if someone is capable of doing something so incredibly disgusting and horrible. Like, is this the first time that they did it? Is this the first time that they just got caught? You always hear these stories in retrospect, too, where they're like, that could have been me. I met the guy 6 months ago.
Now, on top of this, once they investigated the home of Sean Finnegan, he and Rebecca became separately accused of sexual abuse of a child, which allegedly occurred around May of 2020.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. And it will be interesting once we find out more information and get deeper into the story. You know, someone may come forward. There may be other victims out there that are like, I know this guy. This has happened to me. Because this case just went through court. Now, Finnegan's home, it's situated in Oakridge, Tennessee, as we mentioned, and he lived in this apartment for a few years alone with his mother, which I will add, yes, she was living there the entire time that all of this took place. In early fall of 2019, when Rebecca, Finnegan's girlfriend, moved in, his mother was on hospice at the time. She's an older woman, approximately in her 80s. So I'm assuming from what Rebecca explained, she spent a lot of time in her room alone. Their apartment consisted of 2 floors. The bottom floor was the kitchen and the living room, and then there was an upstairs where 2 bedrooms were, and also the bathroom. From looking outside, it kind of looks like it's a regular house, but it's split up into 4 different tenants, who all have a front door.
So not only did the mother live in the house, they also shared walls, shared neighbors.
Yeah.
Did anyone hear anything during this time? I mean, we've lived in apartments. You can hear everything. You can hear someone going to the bathroom, walking to the refrigerator.
Well, it gets interesting because there was a neighbor in that same house as Finnegan's who heard the commotion. She heard banging on the walls around the same time that Jennifer would have been there. She heard it travel from the kitchen to the living room area, which was downstairs, and then travel up to the bedroom where Finnegan's room was. And she heard the headboard banging on the wall for quite some time. And then after this night, she would only seem to hear the headboard banging on the wall for hours at a time. And she just assumed that someone was having rough sex. And she just didn't make it a priority to call the police because she just assumed, well, it's none of my business. It's kind of hard because you live next to these people. You wave to them when you see them outside. Maybe you don't want to stir up any drama. Maybe there was just some kind of crazy argument. You just don't want to get involved. It's kind of hard to say, but it makes me wonder how extreme that night was, because we're going to talk more about it, like what Jennifer went through that night.
Right.
And it's like, how didn't you just call the police? But
I think it would get confusing, though, because from what you told me, a lot of it was sex related. So it's like, where do you really draw the line of like, oh, that's sex, oh, that's something else, or is it, wow, they're being really extreme, Jesus, guys,
Yeah.
you know?
I would hate to be that neighbor who called and then it's like, oh, we're just having rough sex.
Right.
But, I mean, you can still call the police and make it anonymous and say, hey, we're getting some complaints, you know?
Yeah.
Like it
just like a wellness
we're just checking
check
on you. Is everything okay? Because it just takes that, you know, if you hear something, say something.
Imagine in retrospect, though, like obviously this happened. She heard these things. Now she knows what was happening.
Oh, yeah.
That would haunt you for sure.
Yeah. They even asked her in court, actually, like, do you feel guilty about this? Which was kind of like a wrong question to ask because it's like, why does that have anything to do with this case?
Right.
But I know you would feel like horrible about that. And like you said, we've had neighbors in apartments where it's like you hear stuff and you're just kind of like, turn up the music a little bit. I don't know what's going on.
Wow, they get wild over there.
Or listen like really close to the wall. Like, what are they talking about? What are they fighting about? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in this situation, I mean, it's best to just call, you know? But yeah. And there was a neighboring house that was similar to the one that we described that was divided by a driveway with other tenants as well, who were somewhat friends of Sean's. They occasionally would smoke pot together, and soon they became Rebecca's friends once she moved in. And occasionally they would all go over to Finnegan's apartment for like 30 minutes or so and smoke, talk, and hang out and whatever. However, these were the neighbors who eventually helped Rebecca get out of her situation. And we'll get to this more in detail soon. So here's a little about Rebecca Dishman, Sean Finnegan's girlfriend. Okay. She grew up in Tennessee with her parents, who ended up passing away when she was 18 years old, and she was a senior in high school. And since this happened, it seems like Rebecca was often on the run looking for some kind of stability. She was living with her fiance at the time once her parents passed away. However, they split up and she moved in with her aunt and uncle and lived there for about a year. Then she started to live with a new fiance. And when they broke up, she would move in with friends who would kick her out. Then she would move in with family who ended up kicking her out also. And eventually she moved in with a couple that she was friends with. However, at some point, she feared that they also would kick her out.
She did a fair bit of couch surfing.
Yeah. Now, throughout all of this time, she stated that she had been engaged 5 different times in the past and lived with 3 of them. She had a few odd jobs here and there, but she was fired at all of them. She tried becoming a CNA, but she wasn't able to pass her test to be certified. She worked at Five Guys restaurant as a cashier, and she worked as a waitress at a restaurant, but she was let go of all of these jobs.
So it sounds like a pretty rough patch in her life.
Yeah, it seems like she had a little of a challenging life trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, she's probably looking for some stability, someone to most likely provide that for her.
Yeah. Now, around August or September of 2019, she met Sean Finnegan over Facebook, who she believed was in his 40s at the time, when in reality he was around 50, 56 years old, and was convinced to move into his home about 2 weeks after meeting him.
So how old was she at the time?
She was 21.
Oh, big age gap.
Yeah. And he told her that he wanted her to move in and for her to be his girl. Apparently, they had talks where they both were interested in the BDSM lifestyle. She was the submissive and he was the dominant. Now, she was pretty much new to this lifestyle, so she was like mildly interested in it, not to the extreme as to what would eventually happen once she entered into Sean's world. Now, this time, she didn't know much about him or his background. All she knew was that he worked at a bar/restaurant called the Pint House in Knoxville, Tennessee, as a cook working the night shift. So preparing burgers, making the wings, and he would eventually get home around 5:30 a.m. the next day. So 12-hour shift. And so Rebecca packed her bags and she told the people she was living with that she was moving out. And Sean came to pick her up. She learned that Sean's mother was living in the apartment as well, but her health was declining. So while Sean would go to work, she would stay there. His mother was there too, but from what she explained, it seemed like a relationship never developed with her and his mother. They would have neutral interactions, but they never got to know each other on a personal level. She did make somewhat friends with the neighbor at the time, and we talked about that. They would smoke weed together and hang out. But for the most part, she spent a lot of time alone, being the stay-at-home girlfriend while he would work his 12-hour shifts. She described her and Sean's relationship as relatively rapid-paced, and she was optimistic that it would be a normal relationship. Things seemed safe. They seemed normal. It was probably exciting that she finally found some kind of stability. And this secure feeling lasted about 1 to 2 weeks.
Not very long.
No. Sean's true colors really came to the surface once the dust settled. Their first argument started when she went to go get a shower, and he shoved her in the shower, causing her to cut her leg and fall down. Rebecca described this as the incident that led to her first punishment.
So what made him snap? What was the trigger?
So she explained that he was angry because she had used his cell phone to log into her Facebook, and he happened to see that her ex had messaged her and sent her explicit images.
Okay.
Now, according to Rebecca, she's thinking punishments. They're into this kinky sex life. Once she got out of the shower, he tied her to the bed, had intercourse with her, and scratched her down her back with force that made her bleed.
Doesn't sound like makeup sex.
No. She expressed her relationship was very controlled by Sean from this point on. She thought that punishment, that meant kinky sex, not this violent, aggressive behavior that she experienced. She explained the details in which her punishments would get more severe, which included one time being forced into a dog cage and then being peed on and defecated on. And he would climax to this and take pictures.
Pretty sick.
Now, occasionally, he would use a dog chain on her, and it would be secured with a padlock around her neck, and she was forced to walk around like a dog on all fours and act like a dog. He would use box cutters on her, making cuts into her inner thighs, and she explained he used torch lighters on her, giving the details that he would put his leg over her throat, and he would hold the lit torch on her shoulder to burn her. And there were times that he sodomized her. She summed it up as very violent punishments that continued to get worse.
So, these punishments, was this something that they had agreed on or she was into a little bit that were taken too far? Or were these just straight up punishments that she was not willing to do?
At first, it was, she thought it was just going to be kinky sex, slap on the butt or something.
Okay.
She never knew it was going to be this extreme.
So they probably had discussions, but it was nothing.
No.
What they agreed to was nothing like what was being done to her.
No. And she mentioned that she had past relationships where she kind of dabbled in it, with her ex-lovers.
Right.
But it was never this. This was extreme abuse level,
sadistic.
Yeah. And he gained full control over her through all of this. There was an abusive layer in there. Now, later in court, when asked, she agreed that she still loved him.
Still loves him.
Yeah. So after everything he did to her, yeah, she still loves him. And while in court, when she agreed to this, Sean Finnegan was on camera and he nodded his head that's right, I still got her.
Yeah, he gets off on this control thing.
Yeah. So that's a little about Rebecca. And we learned this based on her appearance in court as she was testifying against Sean Finnegan.
Okay, so when did Jennifer come into the mix?
So while in court, Rebecca testified that Jennifer, she just showed up one day at the apartment around December of 2019, once Sean came home from working at the bar around 5:30 in the morning. Rebecca woke up to this girl that he had brought over to the house. He introduced Jennifer to Rebecca, and at the time, Rebecca claims that she wasn't at all aware of who she was or where she came from, and she wasn't expecting her.
Wow. This was like something he did totally on a whim.
Yeah, he was in total control of any decision that was made in this relationship.
He was like, hey, I brought a girl home.
Yeah. Now, Rebecca stated that once Jennifer arrived, she went to go get a shower, and this is when Sean asked Rebecca if they should kidnap her. Rebecca's reaction to it was to agree because she felt like her opinion wouldn't have mattered if she said no. Now, after she got out of the shower, they had breakfast, and Rebecca explains that Sean walked Jennifer over to the back door and showed her a baseball bat. In court, she explains that he started to hit her with the baseball bat, and Rebecca went into shock, as she explained, which was how she explained most of her reaction to everything that went on in the apartment moving forward when witnessing things that would happen to Jennifer.
Witnessing someone get hit with a baseball bat is pretty shocking.
Yeah, for sure. But at another point, when recalling this, she said that she was upstairs and came downstairs to all of this blood all over the floor, and Jennifer was obviously hit with something, and she assumed the baseball bat.
So there's two stories, essentially.
Yeah, it's kind of like
one, she witnessed it, and then the other one's like, well, I didn't see it, but I came down, and there was blood everywhere, so I can tell that he hit her.
Yeah. And as for Sean, he claims that he was in the shower at the time, and he came out of the shower and Jennifer was hit. So he's saying Rebecca hit her. He's defending himself, and he claims that he was in the shower at the time and he came out of the shower and Jennifer was covered in blood. So he's saying Rebecca hit her.
Wait, so who hit who?
Not sure. Now, this is all alleged information basically coming from Rebecca as she testified in court against Sean. Jennifer was screaming and crying, which could have caused Finnegan's mother to be alerted. Rebecca was told to go upstairs to stop his mother, who was coming downstairs to get her medication. Mrs. Finnegan gave her a hard time, but then she went back to her bed. And Rebecca went back downstairs to a scene in the living room to assist Sean. Sean was continuously beating Jennifer, who was covered in blood, pleading for him to stop, and she had a fireplace screen over top of her to use as a shield, and blood was soaking the carpet.
Wow, what a scene. Could you imagine if the mother did walk down? Like, would Sean have killed his own mother?
I don't know. I feel like Sean was like her baby.
Oh, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. He just seems cold like that.
Yeah. Definitely someone who has no remorse. Now, the defense, they highlighted that she mentioned certain details in court, like the fire screen that Jennifer used as a shield and what happened to Rebecca with the flame torch and other things that she hadn't initially told the police. It's unclear why she's just bringing these things up now in court.
Maybe she feels safer.
Maybe. So as we go back to the scene where Jennifer is beaten and bloodied on the living room floor, Rebecca was directed to go into the kitchen to get the cleaning supplies to clean up the blood. Supposedly, she used bleach and a Swiffer. Meanwhile, Rebecca witnessed Sean berating her and ripping her pants off, spitting on her face in disgust as he aggressively yelled at her, asking her why she was not shaved. Rebecca explained that Jennifer didn't respond with words and only cried. Now, we know a little about Rebecca. She has allegedly gone through horrible abuse herself. But at the same time, she is very loyal to her abuser. And she even admitted to engaging in the sexual assault that was done to Jennifer because he would force her to do so.
Right. I mean, I believe that part because he's super controlling, right? He seems to be the dominant one in the relationship, and she loves the dude, right? But right now it's a he said, she said. He said she did it. She said he did it. Could this have just been a jealousy thing? Like, could it be as simple as that? I mean, she really loves this guy. She's obviously somewhat a victim, right? And he says that he disappeared or whatever, was away, and he comes back down and sees blood and assumes that Rebecca beat her with a baseball bat. Did she? Like, maybe this was something done completely out of jealousy. He just brought a random woman into their relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility.
Can't rule it out.
Now, she did state in court that Sean brought in, quote, prostitutes, as it was described, often for mainly his sexual pleasure, but they both would engage. It wasn't like this was a one-time instance where a girl showed up.
Oh, okay.
But nothing like this extreme has ever happened. Jennifer shows up in the house, gets a shower, eats breakfast, and then she's beaten with a baseball bat. So it's weird that this particular time she was essentially beaten so badly and they planned to kidnap her.
So he didn't bring her home for a sexual act, like with Rebecca, similar to what they had done with prostitutes, right?
Yeah, this was a little different. Like, this was like next level. Like, he asked her, hey, should we kidnap this girl?
Oh, like when she was in the shower.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, this is what's going on.
We're going to kidnap her. Yeah. So it could have been like a team effort. I mean, I couldn't see Rebecca doing it. It seemed like she was just like a dog with her tail between her legs, submissive,
right.
You know?
Right. You know, I just assumed that this was one of those cases where it was like a sexual thing that went bad or something like that. But this is like
next level.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, Jennifer was conscious but badly beaten. She was forced to stand up and walk upstairs. Sean directed Rebecca to stand on the other side of her, and they escorted her upstairs to Sean's bedroom, where she never left. He put her on the floor near Rebecca's side of the bed and sexually assaulted her after she had been beaten and berated. And Rebecca participated in the sexual assault as well. And she explained that he wasn't satisfied with Jennifer, so he forced Rebecca to give him oral sex. Afterwards, he chained Jennifer to the side of the bed where she remained on the floor. He directed Rebecca to not leave the apartment, and she was told if she tries to yell to take care of it, meaning to hurt her. And he supposedly left for work. Now, in this apartment, there were dog collars found, some with the prongs, with unidentified male DNA. There were zip ties and chains, dog leashes, just all that sort of stuff.
So Sean trusted Rebecca, right?
Mm-hmm.
But did he also chain her up? Like, did he trust her that much?
She stated that she was never locked up or chained up while Jennifer was there. She could leave if she wanted to. She went on walks sometimes, but she didn't have a car. She didn't have a cell phone.
It's so hard in these situations because you want to say, why didn't she just run away? But was she too afraid to run away? Was she too brainwashed? Was she a victim also? It's hard.
There was a strong controlling factor involved from what it seems. You know, she was told to do things and she would just do them. No questions asked.
And ultimately, this is her everything. I mean, she didn't really have anything before him, right? This is her stability. Obviously, he's the one who works. It sounds like she doesn't. She leaves him, she loses everything.
Yeah, I mean, that power and control Finnegan had over Rebecca just seems so wrongfully strong. Maybe at the time she was okay with everything. Like you said, she didn't have anywhere else to go. She didn't want to leave, maybe. But he would continue to go to work for like 12 hours a day. And she would be at the house alone with Jennifer, who was still chained to the bed. Now, the chains that were securing Jennifer were locked with padlocks, and the keys to the locks were always with Sean Finnegan. So she never had the opportunity to set her free once he left for work. And this went on for days as she was continuously sexually assaulted by this monster and his girlfriend.
So was she ever unchained? Like, did she have any type of freedom? I mean, this is a small place. Like, essentially, this is a house split into 4 apartments. The mom also lives there. Like, was she making trips to the bathroom?
No. Rebecca explained that she wore adult briefs, and she had a small bucket that was described as a Fireball whiskey metal bucket.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So how many days did she actually go through this?
Somewhere between 3 to 4 days.
Oh, okay.
Now, Rebecca said that she would feed her and would give her cigarettes to smoke, but for the most part, she was starved and was dying and in horrible condition. She needed medical attention. And as time went on, her condition from what happened to her so far was causing her health to deteriorate. And it was believed that they were debating on killing her at this point. Now, allegedly, while Sean was at work, Rebecca tried to pick the lock with a knife, but it didn't work. She also unsecured the zip ties, so she broke them off, and she states that when she did this, Sean came home from work. He noticed that the zip ties were removed, and this made him angry. He warned her about the possibility that she could have hurt her, and Rebecca also stated that because she broke off the zip ties, this led to punishments.
Did Jennifer ever yell for help? Like, I'm not sure how bad her condition was, but was she with it enough to scream for help or do anything like that? I mean, they're in an apartment essentially.
Yeah, you think that someone would hear something, right? Yeah. Now, from what Rebecca stated, she never yelled for help, but as we mentioned, there was commotion and noises coming from the apartment. Any neighbors that heard anything, they just assumed that it was just sexual things going on. They didn't think anything more was happening other than that and just didn't want to get involved.
Yeah.
Rebecca explained that there were a number of times that Jennifer begged to be let go. And Rebecca's response was that she wished she could help, but there was just no way to do so. There was also times where Rebecca witnessed her begging to Sean to let her go, but he assured her that wasn't going to happen.
I don't want to victim blame here. I really don't. But she had a lot of freedom, right, Rebecca? And I know she could have been brainwashed or scared, and she was definitely terrified, right? Especially even with the zip ties and him coming home and threatening her over it. But she would go outside. Like, she had neighbors. There were chances to be a hero.
I feel like she was just so abused to the point where she just didn't have any like thought process to say, this is wrong, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to put yourself into those shoes,
yeah,
right?
because we don't know what it's like. I've never been in that situation. With someone like Rebecca, she just seemed like she was just so fearful of what could happen to her. She just seemed so loyal to Sean that she didn't do that. And in court, the neighbors would say that Rebecca would be over at their house while Sean was at work, and they would be just talking, and, you know, sometimes she would use her phone.
So I'm curious, in court, did she ever say she was remorseful or anything like that?
No, nothing like that.
It's interesting.
I think she had her own set of problems that was like, I don't want to die. Right. I don't want to end up like her. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's typical she's also in danger type situation. I totally get it. It's just, it's a weird situation.
Yeah. And there was no doubt that Jennifer at the time, she really needed medical attention. They were watching her health decline, and she had open wounds, and Rebecca would just sit in the room with her for hours. They would have casual conversations. You know, regardless of her health, it didn't stop the sexual assault at all. Like, there were times where Sean would force Rebecca to climax over top of Jennifer. She's still chained to the side of the bed, lying on the floor. And at this particular time, Jennifer was disgusted by it. So Rebecca stated that she left the room to cool off. And when she went back upstairs, they went to bed. Jennifer was still chained to the bed near Sean's side, still on the floor. Now, by day 4 or 5, Sean came home from work with shopping bags containing shower curtains, rags, and similar items. Initially, Rebecca thought that they were just things for the house, but she soon realized that he was planning to murder Jennifer. However, I find this a bit hard to believe because they had already been discussing whether or not to kill her. And Sean had even ordered a stand-up freezer, so it doesn't seem like this shocking thing that Rebecca, she just had no idea that they were planning to kill her, just based on what I gathered.
But it could also be her just being naive. It's like, yeah, she thought this was going to happen, but now it happened and
now
it's here.
Happening and he's actually going to do it. Oh my God. Now, before he did this, he had Rebecca give Jennifer a shower and he was angry that she was taking too long. Then, once they got back into the room, Jennifer was instructed to lie face down, and then she was aggressively strangled with a shoelace for a few hours, as Rebecca had to watch her suffer as blood was coming from her mouth.
A few hours?
Yeah, she explained that he would aggressively strangle her and then stop, and would continue to do this over a few hours.
So he's kind of just playing with her, like getting her to the edge of death and letting her come back.
Exactly. And there were a number of thin ligature marks on her neck that later explained that this was done with a shoelace. Some were even cut deep into her skin, which would have caused her to bleed. And during this, Rebecca claims that he had asked for her help, but she was too in shock and sat on the bed. She tried to leave at one time just to empty the ashtray that was filling up, but she was not allowed to. While he was doing this to Jennifer, he was smoking the entire time. The final time that she was strangled, Rebecca watched her take her last breath, and Rebecca explained that she got onto her hands and knees and said her goodbyes. Sean, who had no remorse for what he just did, walked out of the room to go to the bathroom and empty the overfilled ashtray. Sean came back into the room, seeing Rebecca, saying her goodbyes, and slapped her across the face.
Wow.
Sean's cell phone at the time had been blowing up, and he was getting call after call. Voicemails were left, and text messages were coming through because he was late for work. And so that evening, he left for work with blood on his hands. Jennifer's lifeless body remained on the floor, and Rebecca was shaken up at this point. She sat in the room for hours, checking her pulse to see if there was anything, but she knew she was dead. Now, you would think that she would have ran out the door to call 911 or get a hold of her neighbor. She just witnessed someone getting murdered. There's a dead body in her room.
Yeah, but now she knows what he's capable of.
Yeah, true. So according to her testimony, she sat in the room and just waited for Sean to get back home after his 12-hour shift. Most likely, she went to bed.
Those had to be the longest 12 hours of her life.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Now, once Sean gets home from work, Jennifer is still on the floor, and he directs Rebecca to clean up the blood in the room and to help with the moving of Jennifer's body downstairs. It's not confirmed as to what day Jennifer was murdered exactly, but the prosecution argues that it was sometime around Christmas. And according to records, he had ordered a stand-up freezer from Rent-A-Center on December 27th, which it was delivered the next day, December 28th, 2019. And he instructed them to just leave it on the front porch. No big deal. Just leave it there. I'll get to it.
Wait, Rent-A-Center? So he didn't even own the freezer?
No, he just ordered it and had it delivered outside.
Rent to own.
Yeah. So at some point, the freezer was brought inside the house and it was positioned in the living room. Sean forced Jennifer's body into this freezer. The freezer was moved so the door was facing the wall, so it wasn't easily opened by someone who would be curious. However, Sean was beginning to become worried that someone would open the freezer, like his mother or someone who would come into the house. And so together they take Jennifer's body out of the freezer, they carry her upstairs, and then they also carry this freezer upstairs together. And this freezer is a stand-up freezer. It's like 5, almost 6 foot tall. Once the freezer was upstairs, and they run an extension cord into his bedroom closet where the freezer was, and they forced Jennifer's naked body, allegedly breaking her neck and her arms to get her body to fit into the freezer. And Rebecca says that when Sean did this, Jennifer let out this strange noise and blood got all over Rebecca. Sean ended up changing the doorknob on the closet, I'm assuming with a lock, and that was that. She remained in that freezer for 8 long months, and her body was positioned in a way for Finnegan's sexual pleasure, keeping her breast exposed and her face exposed.
Ew, so he can, like, revisit it.
Yeah, and he most definitely did.
So what was the sound that they heard? Was it like a snapping or like...
It could have been like gas buildup.
Oh, something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't... Like, she was dead.
Right.
It was probably like a gas releasing or something like that. Now, the heinous acts towards Jennifer didn't end with her death. It was described that Finnegan shockingly and offensively mistreated Jennifer's body. According to Rebecca, she recalled a number of times that she caught Finnegan opening the freezer to masturbate to her frozen and battered naked body. He would stab her frozen body all over. At one time, Rebecca witnessed him standing there with his hand out, and soon she realized that he was holding her nose. According to her, she ran downstairs when she saw this and was about to run out the back door, but he called her back into the room to perform oral sex on him, and so she did.
Oh, man.
He had also cut other parts of her frozen body, like her left breast was completely cut off, and her nipple was cut off.
Dude is sick.
Now, there is so much more to this case. I hate to end it here, but next week we are going to touch on the details of when Rebecca finally made the decision that enough is enough. She needs to get the hell out of this house because what could happen to her, and who intervened and what details were brought up in court that weren't initially mentioned from Rebecca to the police or in her testimony. So stay tuned to make sure you subscribe to Crime Salad so you'll get a notification when part 2 posts. And before we jump off here, we just want to thank our subscribers. Thank you so much for supporting Crime Salad. You make it possible with listeners like you.
And if you're not already a subscriber, make sure to check us out on Patreon or Apple Plus, where you can get ad-free listening and bonus content.
Yeah, doesn't that sound awesome?
No ads.
All right, and we will see you next week.